Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here with another Falconry video. Today's video I want to talk about Sharp-shinned Hawks. I was going through and thinking, I don't think I've ever actually done a video just on introducing Sharp-shinned Hawks, which surprises me. They're wonderful birds to fly. And I've done a lot of videos kind of talking about facets of them, how to find their nests or what to do about aggression with them. But I don't think about them as just a species. And I'm like, well, I need to because they're incredible birds. Now, Sharp-shinned Hawks, if you're new to falconry, they're accipiters. Accipiters are the forest hawks. These are hawks with short rounded wings, long tails, made to go diving incredibly fast through trees and basically built to hunt birds. Accipiters can hunt other things as well, but they're really built to be supreme bird hunters that catch birds on the wing in the air, which makes them incredibly agile. Now, Sharp-shinned Hawks themselves are small, and in the United States, they are our smallest accipiters. We've got goshawks, Cooper's hawks, Sharp-shinned Hawks. They're tiny. They're very little. But don't let that fool you. They are powerhouses with amazing speed and agility. But even though they're very common, you don't see a lot of people flying them. Part of that is because they can be kind of tricky to find, but they're very well worth it. Whether you raise an imprint that is raised from the time they're a little fluff ball, a little baby, or whether you have a bird that was parent raised and then you get it right as it's starting to leave the care of its parents, or whether you trap a passage Sharp-shinned Hawk, they're all great birds. That being said, I've flown a few passage Sharp-shinned Hawks. I have enjoyed them. I've also worked with them in rehab situations. I've never had a problem training them and getting them to pretty quickly kind of warm up to you and understand what you're trying to do. There is a falconer here in Utah, one of the best hood makers in the world, who's flown more passage Sharp-shins than anyone I know. He is much more of an expert, and he says if you're going to fly a passage Sharp-shinned Hawk, you shouldn't fly one that was trapped after September, if I remember correctly. I've had some experiences after that and still seem to be okay, but I'm passing on his expertise because he is a true master with the Sharp-shins. But why don't I talk about these birds? They're really a type of sparrowhawk, and really if we were accurately naming them, we should be calling them American sparrowhawks, not Sharp-shinned Hawks. Why do we call them Sharp-shinned Hawks? For the dumbest reason on earth. Technically, they're so little that their tarsi bones of their leg, the tarsi is skin, tendon, bone. There's no muscle there. And if you look really closely at the legs, you can see on the edge that where the scales and skin fold over, it's kind of a sharp edge to it. Really? That's what you chose for the common name of a Sharp-shinned Hawk? When I was a little kid in the era of books reading up on falconry, I was so convinced, surely it can't be sharp-shinned. Maybe it's sharp-shinned hawk. Maybe their feathers are kind of shiny. I don't know. But surely it can't be shinned. But yeah, that's what they're named for. I'm like, how close do you have to be, like a foot away from one of them to notice that there's any difference on those legs? So kind of a dumb name. We really should be calling them the American sparrowhawk because they are a sparrowhawk. And not only that, current genetics seem to indicate that they directly emerged from Eurasian sparrowhawks. So they are a sparrowhawk. It should be their name. They're not big, but they're fast and they're powerful. Their feet, though, their feet themselves have comparatively short toes, very long talons. These are small bird hunting feet, built to pierce through the back feathers. If you're chasing a songbird or something, a sparrow, a starling, and it's dodging, and you're like trying to reach out and grab it, you have to pierce through. Most of those kind of birds have fluffy feathers on their rump around the base of the tail, and that is kind of a defense. And accipiters, sharp-shins included, have longer talons to pierce through those feathers and shorter toes to exert more force. You're not stretching it out like a falcon's feet. So that's what they're built to do, is little birds, for better or for worse. They can hunt larger prey. I have hunted quail with Sharp-shinned Hawks. But what I've found is they have no problem catching a quail. They have a very difficult time holding on to a quail. Even a large female Sharp-shin has a hard time, and they'll get loose more often than not. So really, kind of the sparrow, European starling is kind of the size range that most people use for Sharp-shinned Hawks. If you want to hunt quail, you kind of want to step up and get a Cooper's hawk then. So they never seem to run out of energy. That's what I love. If you're flying merlins or kestrels, momentum is a factor and how much musculature, but Sharp-shins just, and they get up and they miss and they get back up and they keep going. And remember, accipiters, all accipiters, think and see at a higher frame rate. And so you're just like, what's even happening? It's this blur of impossible, cartoonish motions. And you'll just have success all day long. Sharp-shinned hawks, most people who fly them will say it's the most fun they've ever had flying a bird. If they're honest about it, they're like, yeah, that was fun. And I think part of it is just because they're small and manageable, and there's prey available. There's always prey available. You can always find sparrows, and so you're just constantly having success. Where maybe with another bird, I drove an hour out to a good pond, and are there any? There weren't ducks there, so I drove to another pond. Okay, it's almost sunset. Get the falcon up, flush the ducks. It dives. Where it's like, you can go anywhere and find prey to hunt with a sharp-shinned. So you're going to hunt and hunt and hunt, fly, and see the most spectacular flights of your life, even in an urban environment. And that's part of why they are so fun. They're easy to train. They're easy to work with. But now some of the bad. Sharp-shinned hawks are tiny, therefore they are delicate. Weight management must be absolutely religious. It's just like a kestrel, but even more so. Because they are delicate, they're lower on the food chain. And there are a lot of larger raptors, especially Cooper's hawks, that love to target them. John Griggs, who's on the Falconry podcast on this channel as well, he's had instances where literally he had his sharp-shinned hawk on the ground on a kill, and Cooper's hawk came in and he had to put his hand up, and it literally slammed off of his hand and was intent on killing this sharp-shinned hawk. That's rough. Sharp-shinned hawks have so many predators after them. They're breakable. Even in the wild, they don't normally have a long lifespan. Live fast, die young is kind of how they live. But when you're in a falconer and you're trying to have a healthy bird in a healthy situation, that's kind of rough odds to think, the chances are this bird could be reckless and slam into a building, get hit by a car, unexpectedly get attacked by a wild raptor. There's always risks in falconry, but they seem to be a little higher with sharp-shinned hawks, unfortunately. It's funny, I had one that I only got because I was at an outdoor work meeting, and one of the fellow coworkers looks down and is like, "Is that your bird, Ben?" I'm like, "What?" And right before we got there, apparently a sharp-shinned hawk had chased some sparrows by a bird feeder, slammed a window, and was just there stunned and had a concussion. I picked it up, and by the end of the day, she was good and ended up flying her. So it's crazy just that, slamming into windows, being chased by wild prey. They're delicate. And you have to respect that even though they are powerful predators with a lot of strength and ability, they are still delicate, and you have to hunt with them accordingly. I can't recommend them highly enough. Any age I've mentioned, from an IS to a family bird to a passage sharp-shinned, they are wonderful. You won't regret flying one. Just if you do fly one, be sure you know how to handle small birds first. I would recommend having flown a kestrel, ideally, a merlin, something like that, before you fly a sharp-shinned, just because they're even a little more delicate than those species, in my opinion. From their feathers and bones to their weight management, you just got to dial it in perfectly and treat them well. So, wonderful birds. Let me know if you have questions or comments about them. The Sharp-shinned Hawk / American Sparrowhawk, one of my absolute favorite birds to fly and hunt with and work with, and I hope if you have that desire that you'll get the chance to fly one too. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and as always, happy hawking.